in terms of land laws, to guide investments and policy making in our countries. And finally, land ownership and titling, major challenges as well in terms of land tenure and land registries and records that are not very accurate and not automated as well. So these are all challenges that need to be addressed if we are going to really transform the sector. Next slide, please. And these are all reflected also in the strategy that Nigeria has, and which is in line with Shelter Afrique's strategy as well. And again, our holistic approach is also in line, right, with the Nigerian National Housing Strategy, where we are focusing on 4 main areas, right, 4 main businesses. The first one is financing financial institutions, addressing more the demand side with mortgage finance, housing microfinance, trade finance, and financing the whole value chain through financial institutions. So lending to SMEs and trading companies that are importing construction materials to make them more affordable and accessible in our economies. And then the second pillar of our strategy is what we call Project Finance Group, PFG, right? The Project Finance Group basically addresses financing the private developers, corporate lines of credit, and last mile infrastructure development, because we all know that if we don't have access to basic infrastructure, people will not buy the homes, right? Because they're not going to be livable. And we have a lot of that, a lot of those kind of situations in many of our countries where we work. Student accommodations, one area that many countries don't look at, but there's a huge crisis there. And as we all know, it affects the quality of education. So we are addressing that in our second pillar. And then the third pillar is about PPPs, right? Public-private partnership. Public-private partnerships are key. I think the speakers earlier all spoke about it. So for us, it's the heart of our strategy, really, to partner with governments and government agencies to really drive the affordable housing space through PPP frameworks, working with state housing corporations, social housing programs. I was talking to the CEO of Family Homes Funds, who's a great friend. We've been in Washington a couple of occasions discussing how we could partner as well, because we think they're doing fantastic work here in Nigeria. Urban regeneration is an area of focus for us as well, because in many of our countries, we have slums everywhere. I mean, we just spoke about it. In Nigeria, about 50% of people live in slums. So it's a huge priority. We have to tackle it, right? It's not just about talking about mortgages or things that we'll know from the West. It's also about resolving the issues we have on the ground. It's not acceptable that more than 50% of our people live in slums, right? So we have to work on urban regeneration. How do we transform those slums to become livable areas and bring developers that can partner so we can make sure that those homes are livable as well. And then finally, right, the fourth part of our strategy, in line with what the National Housing Strategy in Nigeria is also doing, is about really setting up thematic funds, right? So we'll have different areas. We've identified 7 of them where we will focus on. So the first one is about climate resilience, so green buildings. Second one is gender access to housing for women and women working in the housing value chain, SME owned by women. We want to support the women in the sector to drive the agenda. And then the SMEs and trade finance through financial institutions is another thematic area. It's really about jobs creation, because the more SMEs and trade in the housing sector we support, the more jobs we can create in the economies. And the fourth area of the thematic area is basic infrastructure. So we'll set up a dedicated fund to de-risk housing by creating basically an infrastructure fund for affordable housing. Many countries have been struggling with this, where they build homes and you don't have access to water, electricity, sanitation. So we will be addressing that through that fund. And then we have an Islamic finance fund where we've been partnering with the Islamic Development Bank and other Arab funds, right, to really address that. And frankly, Islamic finance is more about ethical lending, which really helps affordability, because rent to own is a specific product that's very similar to Islamic finance sort of lending. Refugee, migrants, and IDPs, internally displaced people, is core to our strategy, because we all know in many of our countries in Africa, we have a huge crisis of migration and refugees, and we need to generate housing for the sector, for those people, but also integrate them in our economies by creating jobs, because those guys can be skilled. You can have good masons or plumbers or carpenters that can really be part of that whole economic regeneration in those areas of refugees and migrants specifically. Really we can see great opportunities as well, because we have all these youngsters that are crossing the Mediterranean almost every day and dying in there to go to Europe. Instead of that, we're looking to really generate a fund that would help create jobs for the youth in the construction sector in our countries, so they can stay within their countries. And finally, last but not least, diaspora. A diaspora fund where we really believe that, a lot of the diaspora, they're all looking for homes in their countries, but unfortunately they don't know how. So we want to set up a mechanism where we can have a platform through Shelter Afrique that has access to all these countries that are members to, drive diaspora funding into those countries for home investments, for housing investments, and generate investment returns or housing for the diaspora. Some numbers, basically, we've seen that every year the diaspora is sending about $95 billion every year on the continent. So where's that money going, right? So we want to harness that source of funding to deploy into the housing sector. Next slide, please. So it's great to have a strategy and the policy and all these things, but if you don't know how to implement and execute on the strategy, there's no use for the strategy. So this is exactly why Shelter Afrique has come up with a model to scale up affordable housing and implement such a strategy as a national housing strategy in Nigeria. So we have come up with this model called Viral, how to make housing viral, right? But viral means something. It means vision, institutions, regulations, actors, and local initiatives. So this is the model that we'll be using to engage the different countries we're working in, including Nigeria, to help define what the vision should be for the country. Is it affordable housing for all? Is it about rental housing? Is it about rent to own? So we will be working with our countries to define that vision, okay? India has done a fantastic model. I used to live in Bangkok, Thailand, covering Asia Pacific for the International Finance Corporation. And this is exactly the sort of framework that was put in place in such a country. India is a model for developing affordable housing because they have a multi-billion-dollar business in affordable housing. So, this is really addressing the full ecosystem, setting up institutions. We see in Nigeria, you have a lot of institutions. The question is, how are they working together, the synergies, collaboration, and how can we really make sure that all those institutions play their role? And then the regulatory framework, defining what affordability means, and also helping the government come up with, I heard subsidy is not a word to be used, but to come up with a system of blended finance, right, into the industry, because you cannot do social housing, affordable housing without blending finance. Let's be very honest with each other. So Shelter Afrique will be going to raise funding through our fourth pillar, the fund management group, will be raising concessional funding, thematic funding, to help governments drive the social housing and affordable housing agenda. So I think the screen is not very clear. I don't know why, but it's unfortunate. Basically, we will be then working with actors, the full value chain, working with developers, housing finance companies, DFIs, other DFIs to come up with great partnership models to scale up affordable housing. And finally, local initiatives. Every country has a housing program, right? I mean, you talk about Senegal, they have 100,000 presidential housing programs. Some other countries have 1 million, depending on the countries. So we'll be working in that framework to help develop maybe blended finance programs or staff housing programs, set up thematic funds, PPPs, and
recording in progress,
and sector-based funds as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is just an illustration of a model of an employer staff housing fund that will be deploying across our countries. We'll be setting up in the middle Shelter Afrique funds, which will be funded through what we call other government DFIs that we have listed at the bottom. And then we have private sector DFIs as well, listed down there. And obviously Shelter Afrique will be anchoring these funds. And we'll have also the private, other private investors like pension funds, social security funds, employers, staff housing funds will come into this aggregator. So we'll be playing a role of an aggregator where we will be linking employers and their staff to housing opportunities and provide offtake guarantees to the developers on the right-hand side, and also have a PPP framework for those developers to work with governments. So it's really a full ecosystem that we're building here to make sure that we can de-risk the housing program. I'm not going to get into more details here, but we'll be happy to discuss in more details with whoever interested. But we're already discussing with our country partners to really deploy this kind of model, because it really de-risk the whole sector A to Z. Next slide, please. So these are some of the examples of some projects that we've been working on. I'm not going to spend time on them. Next slide. Right, so this is what I was explaining earlier, right? The way we're intervening in our countries today through capital markets. As we know, all our countries have budgetary constraints today where they cannot actually go outright and raise funding for different sectors. They have many, many constraints, many issues, many other priorities. So we're saying at Shelter Afrique, we'll be helping countries actually get funding through our own balance sheet, right? So we'll be issuing bonds in the different countries to finance the sector. So as I said, in Nigeria, we have a 200 billion nairas bond issuance program for the next 3 years. We already issued the first tranche last year, 46 billion nairas, that we are actually deploying into the market as we speak with some developers, financial institutions as well, to support the country and the sector while the government has other challenges and priorities to deal with, right? So this is what we are also doing in other countries. This is our plan to do exactly that. And then just to say that this kind of program was very successful because it was 60% oversubscribed, right? Because the name of Shelter Afrique is well respected in the industry, in the pension fund industry. So all those institutions were able to subscribe to Shelter Afrique very easily, to the bond issuance very easily, and at a very competitive pricing for us. And we recently also had a positive outcome of the GCR rating, which really shows that the institution is in the right direction, is moving to the right direction, and there is trust coming back to the institution. So we'll be looking to do more of these issuances. Next slide, please. So this is a model of PPP, public-private partnership. Again, apologies that this screen is not very clear, but it's clear on the laptop for some reason. So this is just showing a structure of setting up an SPV between government, Shelter Afrique, and private developers to really build large-scale affordable housing that would be competitive and also have a target with different buyers and institutions as well. So the staff housing program can also be part of this kind of initiative. Next slide. Yeah, so this just describes how, Shelter Afrique partners with the government in the PPP process flow, with different state corporations, private partners, to set up an SPV, to then develop a project, identify buyers, and Shelter Afrique will finance also financial institutions. So it's really looking at the whole sector from an integrated perspective, demand and supply, so that we are able to really generate impact. Because historically, the issue has been that we're looking at supply on a silo basis and then demand on a silo basis. It doesn't work. You really need to look at it from an integrated perspective. So this is exactly what we are proposing here. Next slide. This is just describing our refugees and migrants housing program, really the concept that we are developing right now, discussing with different countries, and the impact that we'll be looking for is about job creations for those migrants and refugees so that they don't have to go and die into the Mediterranean, and creating shelter. It's also a source of security because we all know shelter makes people secure, and basically it encourages those youngsters not to be going into terrorism groups, etc., etc. Sustainability also is key. We want every single of the homes we are financing to be green, resilient, and sustainable. So those are really important criteria. And also report data to our data platforms that we spoke about earlier. Next slide, please. I guess this is the end of our presentation, and we'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Very interesting perspectives that we've seen. I'm just going to go straight to the audience now. We'd like to take comments. Then I'll come back to my panelists, and then we'll round up, and we are on our way home. Any comments? Remember what we are trying to say. What should we do differently in order to ensure that we deliver under the new dispensation? So I have 1, 2. Any other person? 1, 2. I don't like inspired comments, so I'd rather you raise up your hand. You indicate now if you want to. Okay, let's start from Mr. Akiumi. 3. I was going to force somebody of the opposite gender to speak, but thank God. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Abi, for that exciting conversation we had, your presentation.
Sorry, excuse me.
I'm really very excited by your approach of getting very close
to... Go and take your call outside now, please.
Nigeria. I think this is like your 3rd time or 4th time here in the last 5 months or so. I'm really very excited about that, which shows visibility and love for our country, Nigeria. The first question I want to ask, because I know you are coming on board, bringing new energy to Shelter Afrique. I am aware of some of the initiatives you have taken recently, and I believe you can still do much more. One issue that I've been nagging, which is also my position when I was in the AFDB, is that too much romance with the poor sometimes may make you to be submerged by poverty as well. What do I mean by that? There is nothing wrong in having compassion and empathy for the poor. It's the best thing to do. But the Shelter Afrique model over the years, they have been romancing too much about social housing at the expense of viability and sustainability of the establishment. I believe that needs to change. What I mean is that there should be an alignment of commercial business with social business, so that the profit and resources you generate from the commercial side, you can actually use it to subsidize the social side. You look at it on a personal level. If it's only the poor members of your family that you relate with, and those that are better than you, you run away from them, one of these days, you will be part of the downtrodden. So that one should be looked at. The other thing is what I call a kids' glove syndrome in Africa. Kids' glove. That is the model of financing business in Nigeria. I challenge my former establishment also, AFDB, the same way. The idea of AFDB coming here, we provided $60 million to one establishment. Excuse me, what is $60 million in Nigeria? What is it going to do? There is need to go much more and provide more resources in Nigeria. This 46 million that you generated in the bond market last is very good. That is really good. But I can assure you, give me that 46 billion naira. I will distribute them to my clients. And it will not be enough. Nigeria is a very huge country. And that's why AFDB has stepped up the country office here to a regional office. Because you can't compare Nigeria with Togo, for God's sake. So we have to put enough resources into the country. The other issues I want to talk about is how you can collaborate with some struggling project or institution to create the enabling environment in Nigeria. For instance, there is this issue of default insurance, a mortgage default insurance that was hung on the neck of CBN, which has been dragging for years and has not got to nowhere. Unfortunately, the former CBN was too busy in the rice farm. He didn't have time to do financial stability, for which was his primary role. He derailed, and that is the result we are seeing today. I'm not talking political, but that is the reality of the country. That mortgage guarantee scheme will make your work easier in Nigeria because some of your risk will be mitigated when we have that in place. Maybe we can have a separate conversation on that. We can collaborate to make that mortgage default insurance work in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Prof?
Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you, the MD Shetta Afrique. I'm so glad when you showcase areas where you want to begin to do things differently as Shelter Afrique. I'm so glad hearing sectors like student housing. So glad hearing things like refugee, hearing things like regeneration. Those are the neglected areas that we thought there is no money, but there's big money. There's big money in regeneration. And I want to invite my last speaker, my brother, to attend the master's class on Wednesday. There's money in regeneration that will change the thinking of developers. Instead of looking for land as far as towards Yanya or Kurudu or Epe, begin to look at Mushin, that is the CBD, Lagos Island, and do regeneration where land value alone, these slum areas, along the coastal of Lagos, these are hot properties that run into billions of land value alone. That by the time we use regeneration to release them, we're going somewhere. But what really is bothering me, the chairman of this section, moderator, is the fact that we all know and we've not been able to unlock. And that is the 16 trillion pension fund. That is one of the largest accumulation of wealth in Africa. 16 trillion. And the law, or the pension law, allowed 40% of this to go into real estate. And we have heard from Mustafa that we have stone, we have building materials. We have land. Slums are on land. We have human beings who have demand for these houses. What we don't have is funding. And that's why we often go for this dollarized funding. And it's never in our favor. How can we unlock this 16 trillion that 40% of it is allowed to flow into real estate. 40% of 16 trillion is a lot of money. Like Mustafa told us, going to bank to look for fund to fund housing, I tell my students over the years, it's financial mismatch. It can't work. But what can work is this pension fund that are real long term. How can we unlock it? Because the law that says that it can flow into real estate only give two windows, REITs and MBS. And I know that the moderator has worked so much on REITs. Why are we not recording success?
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
It's quite unfortunate because we look at the whole thing happening concerning housing estate and also so on. It's a collaboration between the government and the people. Because it's just a syndicate business, in the sense that the government called the outsiders and gave them the information within their system. The people will now go and forge papers. The way to address this problem, one, coming to the streets in form of giving people allocation. You understand? And any staff find one thing should be dealt with. No compromise. Because the big organs normally collect some from their body, say to the field to go and do some work. All this is open room for corruption.
They have to be held, responsible for their action because it's a deceit, it's fraudulent. You know that something is not real and you go ahead to do it in order to implicate others. It is criminal. So they have to be held responsible for their action.
Now, talking about the real estate developers, I believe they did not just come there to develop. This is Federal Capital Territory we're talking about. We have development control. From the very first day they mobilized to that site, I think the development control needs to come to that site to confirm if those persons have the right documents, to if they are also doing the right thing that they are supposed to do on that site. So if any house has been built from the foundation level down to the roofing level, I believe those persons have the right allocation from the federal government. So if any agency should come now to tell me that, okay, this house, I did not have the right documents or no right allocation to that particular land, I think the person should tell me how come. How is it coming out with this finding now?
For me, I would blame government. Because a place that not supposed to develop, you'll be set task force, be monitoring those places. Anytime you see structure, you let the people know that this place not supposed to be doing anything in that place. But they will allow people, they will sold it, they will advertise sometimes on radio. People may fall on victim. At the end of the day, government will go there and say it's an illegal structure.
When you meet the government, when you hold the government, the government stop giving approval to developers. If you meet the government, without the government, the developer would not go to estate development. So the government is the main people, is the main behind this. When you stop them, the developer will not go into. They will not go to start developing without giving approval.
The management of the Federal Capital Territory Development Authority, FCDA, this is a high time for them to rise up to this occasion, to put all necessary measures on ground to stop all these fraudulent persons from penetrating even inside the FCDA to secure such fraudulent documents.
They are not supposed to. They are the first culprits.
Okay.
They are the people that they're supposed to hold. How come you get this land? How come this land was approved to you? Who give you the authority to build? When did you clear it there? But you go there, you see innocent people who cannot fight them because they have muscle. They have political gas, they have security at their back. You see them moving out with convoys of police, chains of police everywhere. Innocent poor man cannot fight them there because they have authority that is backing them up. If authority is not backing them up, they are not supposed to be moving inside innocent people's land and claiming it that it's an estate, their own estate there. Why the people you rely on that are supposed to they are supposed to be the one that will take justice to, that will give you justice? The authority government established, FCT administration, under urban and regional plan, under development control, under ages, you rely on them. They will fail you. You busy going there, coming back. Why the developer are busy developing and you cannot enter there? Somewhere you go there, you see chance of police.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
For residents of Oluwaseun, a community in Akure, the Ondo state capital, and has existed for many decades. Despite its years of existence, the community's environmental situation and housing infrastructure is worrisome, not just to the public, but also to the people living there. The environment, which is not conducive, has water flowing on the street, primarily from the bathrooms of people that channeled their pipes to the street. When asked about having access to some basic amenities and affordability of houses in the community, the youth leader of the community, Mr. Aderomu Ajayi, has this to say.
We are the ones moving out in the night, okay, to secure our life, most especially the youth. I will call everybody, to come out to do the vigilantes for ourselves. We don't have a security personnel coming down here. Now, I want to tell you, most of the times we don't have light. But the NEPA men will come to our place, they will collect their money at the end of the day, at the end of the month. As you can see. But I always telling our youth here not to fight with them.
Some other residents who also lent their voices said that the environmental situation has posed a threat to their livelihoods.
A ò lí títì rárá lí títì irikoto gúlúgúlú kéra olórí abá wá àbọ̀ báyà páàkì sí títì lọ́rùn ìrà gan kan lọ sí ṣọ́ọ̀ṣì libyan gan náà páàkì sí títì lọ́rùn àríbí páàkì sí rárá ìsàlẹ̀ báyìí kó bá fẹ́ gbàbẹ̀ kó bá mọ̀sẹ̀ gbàbẹ̀ kó ẹ̀ ṣọ́ra wà kàn ṣàdédé bá ẹ̀ lálẹ́ kó aṣubú lẹ́ni kí irikoto rẹ̀ gúlúgúlú títì rẹ̀ àìlèjì alógún àní títì.
Kò sójú ọ̀nà kò sómi gbogbo àwọn tó yẹ kó wá kán gbé mọ́tò wá kán bá wa ra nǹkan.
We don't have tarred road like other road there in Akure here. And here, because of the road now, there's no business. Look at the schools. Look at the women selling things. They don't have money to do their business. And apart from this now, you can see the gutter. We don't have good gutters in this area.
Ilé mọ́tò máa yà gbálẹ̀ líbí kí machine gan bọ̀ báyẹn and device ṣe yìn bẹ́ẹ̀ hàn nílé gòkè.
Ilé mi báyìí yàrá mẹ́rin wà níbẹ̀ báwọn ọ̀rẹ́ ní gbangba tí ò sójú ọ̀nà wọn ní òsibí tí wọ́n gbà.
We have a lot of challenges here. If the federal government can help us, okay, to give us good road so that businesses will continue booming here. Look at the schools. The schools, I think we have up to 3 primary schools here now. So with this, if the government can give us good road, we'll be able to have better future.
A rọwọ́ ẹ̀bẹ̀ síjọba ni kán jọ kán ṣíjú àánú wò wá. À ń gbàdúrà fún gbogbo àdúrà tá a dẹ̀ ń gbà fún àgbà lórí wọn. Kán bá wa ṣe ìyà yìí pọ̀ jù. A dẹ̀ ti wà ládùúgbò la ṣẹ̀ fẹ́ sílé lọ.
The Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, on Monday, disclosed the government's plans to provide additional affordable housing units for Nigerians through its investments in the Pan-African Finance Institution, Shelter Afrique. Fashola made this known in his opening remarks during the 42nd Annual General Meeting and Symposium of Shelter Afrique, themed Political Economy in the Built Environment, held in Abuja. The minister stated that with a contribution of $22.5 million and a shareholding capacity of 15.8%, the nation has secured the capacity to improve investments in social housing schemes for its citizens.
Nigeria has made contributions of about $5.9 million in 2017, $9.392 million in 2020, and $7,151,000 in 2022, making a total sum of $22,503,144.84. This has brought Nigeria's shareholding in the company to 15.80%, now valued at $30,724,961.
Speaking earlier, the chairperson of the board of directors of the company, Chi Akboji, said despite numerous global challenges faced, the company has continued to deliver multiple housing projects for Africans.
Shelter Afrique has yielded tremendous value add for Nigeria, for the country as a whole. And of course, right now we have the chairman of the board, who's a Nigerian herself, and of course, we have some other Nigerian staff. So it's really a very good investment for Nigeria.
Speaking in the same vein, the managing director of the company, TMO Habib Khan, restated the company's objectives to scale up affordable housing across the continent.
Our objective is really to scale up affordable housing across the continent. Like my chair just clearly put it, we are really engaged in Nigeria. Last year we've been issuing these bonds, and this is a program that would be done over a few years of about $500 million, which is about 200 billion nairas, and we've done the first tranche. And we're going to do more and more of it, right? So the idea is really to work with financial institutions, with large-scale developers, with government, with the PPPs, and then set up funds, what we call the Fund Management Group. This is a whole new initiative that Shelter Afrique is coming up with.
The Nigeria Honorable Minister of Finance, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, who represented the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, acknowledged that the investment Nigeria has with Shelter Afrique is one of the best investments the nation has.
The investment that Nigeria has in Shelter Afrique is one of the best performing investments that we have. And also the decision the Shelter Afrique took to float 46 billion naira bond in the Nigerian capital market is a very important catalytic investment, especially for the development of the Nigerian capital market, but also for the development of the building industry. And I want to congratulate you all for taking that very important decision. So here
For the residents of Jahi, a community in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Jahi is one of Abuja's fastest growing suburbs. Because of its advantageous location, it can be reached from a number of important thoroughfares, including the Ahmadu Bello Way, the Kubwa Expressway, and the Central Area. Jahi's rise in popularity can be attributed to its strategic location. While looking at its accessibility to work and other major places in the FCT, the Jahi suburb environmental situation has become alarming not just to outsiders, but to the people living there. The environment, which is not conducive, has water flowing on the streets, primarily coming from bathrooms of tenants who channel their pipes to the road. Speaking with one of the residents, she explained the affordability of houses in the area, stating that houses in Jahi are affordable. When asked about having access to basic amenities like water, light, security, and health care, she has this to say.
Jahi is nice and it's accommodating place because we always have lights. When it comes to lights, there is water, there is normal thing we need sharp, but house rent in Jahi there is 500,000 self-contained, there is 350 self-contained. It depends on the standard of the house sharp.
Another resident who spoke with Housing TV Africa said Jahi is one area that is used to having affordable housing, but with the present situation of the country, houses are now costly.
The renting of the house here is very cost. Well, comes to level of self-contained. Self-contained 250, 300, 450, and very dirty house like that. In fact, smelling, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Amidst the different reactions from some residents, some spoke about the poorly built structures and how water affects their properties and belongings. Also adding that security level is very poor, with scavengers, aka Babambola, sneaking in and out to steal from them.
There are different sides in Jahi. There are some sides that are good and neat, and there are some sides that are dirty and they are not good. And water cannot flow and go straight forward, or it cannot look for a place to like go out. Or there are some places whereby sockaway are filled up and then they just come out on the road, and then you just see it like dirty and so messed up. It makes the environment look so bad. And in front of our Jahi estate, in fact the whole environment has dump. People don't know how to dump their refuge, especially all these guys that carry sacks on their back. They steal a lot. It's when I came to Jahi, that's why I first realized it. They steal a lot. Anything plastic, iron, aluminium, they just take it without even asking permission.
Visiting the primary healthcare facility in the area to have a first-hand assessment, the healthcare practitioner who spoke with Housing TV Africa stated that the facility is doing its best to attend and provide medical attention to patients who visit the facility, adding that the facility needs more help in terms of providing more health services to the people.
This work that you are seeing is not from the government, it's one Rotary Club that is doing the work for us. So if government will put hand and make it, like, let them continue from where they stop, we will be happy.
As the hope of the common man is steadfast on a daily basis, the residents of Jahi are urging government officials to intervene and enhance the living conditions in the area.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
We don't have road, and you see at times if it is raining, you will see a lot of people will go by the roadside. They'll be thrown dirt on the main road. We also doesn't have toilet. You see a toilet, you will see up to 30 tenants. They are using one. You can't leave your door open, go and buy something. Before you will know, Babambola will enter. By the time you will take them to police station, 1 hour is too much. The police people will release them. In fact, we don't know what is happening.
This is the situation with many citizens in not just Nigeria. Are we ready for this conversation? What is the plight of an average Nigerian citizen in regards to housing? Housing is a fundamental human right, and these issues must be addressed.
Leisure Court Limited. We have branches in Abuja, Lagos, Akure, and Oshobo. We have products, properties, terraces, land properties, apartments. Well, it's been really welcoming, and I mean, the ambience is a very good one. The organizers of this show have been really awesome to us. We had good food. We've met with different dignitaries, and I mean, the contacts we've made so far is awesome. And so far, we've been getting good products. I mean, we've gotten calls upon calls. Like, our phones are blowing up already with the experience so far.
Yeah, at Brains and Hammers, we are first and foremost Nigeria's foremost infrastructure, hospitality, commercial, and real estate company. And our goal is to position ourselves as the biggest and most accessible real estate company, and to also reduce the amount of deficits in homes across not just Nigeria, but in Africa as well. Our experience so far has been great, being that we have positioned ourselves, strategically in front, and we are pretty much accessible to a lot of people that are going in and out of the hall. It's been pretty interactive, and we've had a lot of people make inquiries, ask questions, and we've been able to, answer a lot of people and put them through a lot of, inquiries. And hopefully something great and amazing comes out of this.
We're a real estate firm in Abuja, Nigeria. And we have our affordable housing project situated at Karu, Asopada. So the experience has been wonderful. We've been part of the Abuja Housing Show for years now. We've been able to expand our reach, our clientele base. We have a lot of people coming in, inquiries, so we are pleased and happy.
I'm one of the representatives of AFP. AFP is Abuja Furniture Production, a business unit of Julius Berger Nigeria PLC. AFP, we provide furniture solutions in an unmatched manner to clients from various range of products, doors, kitchen and kitchenettes, bedroom furniture solution for companies and individuals. AFP being participants in African Housing Show for some years now, I would say that this year there have been much more better arrangements and much more participants.
CDK Integrated Industry is a manufacturer of porcelain tiles, the #1 leading manufacturer of porcelain tiles in Nigeria. Okay, so we've been participating at the African International Housing Show for close to 5 years now. And if it's not something of value to us, we won't be a repeat participant and exhibitor. So the event has been impactful. We've seen how it had helped build our brand awareness, had helped push that brand to a larger audience. And so we are committed to be partners, moving forward with the exhibition.
Company name is West African Ceramic Limited. Okay, we are displaying here tiles and marble, and a new product we are going to launch again this year. So last year we are unable to give complete awareness, and this time we are building some small affordable house like people can make it in their budget. So we are actually purpose of this introducing of LGS, light gauge steel structure roof. It means we can protect our environment because of this is a resistant proof and anti-thermite and fire proof. It will give more longer and durability is there. We are participating since we are participating in the housing show, and every year we are continuing our own contribution from this. We are platinum sponsors for this event. So this show will be helpful for all the people to get an awareness about affordable housing. So we are here to expose our products. Everything will be affordable. It's not expensive.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Nestled in the heart of Jos, the capital city of Plateau State, lies Mama Iyabo, a community that defies the odds. Despite being in the capital city, the community faces a myriad of challenges that threaten its residents' well-being. The fast-growing community is home to over 500 residents in Jos South. While the community might be in the city of Jos, its living conditions are challenging for its residents, becoming a concern for proper and basic living standards. The community is cut off from the rest of the city by a dusty and bumpy road that is barely passable by vehicles, making it a nightmare for the residents to commute to their homes. The houses in the community are dilapidated structures with water leaking from the bathrooms and toilets of the residents, creating a breeding ground for diseases and infections. The residents resort to using mosquito nets for their windows to ward off the swarms of mosquitoes that invade their homes from the stagnant gutters and broken pipes. When asked about the challenges of living in the community, Bethel Malam, a resident of the community, expressed his frustration and despair.
Before you go get water, you go to work out where before you go get water first. Dirty, area is dirty. Even though it's in the area and it's still dirty. But if you like, better apply.
While some residents have no issues with electricity, others have been living in darkness, as many tenants are required to pay for their own meters and may still not have power supply regardless, according to Felix Yusuf, a young resident.
60,000, they have paid all the things. They have paid for it. They didn't do it daylight.
Another resident says the economic situation of most residents of the community poses a threat to security.
I've been in this area for ever since I was given birth to, you get, and so there are no cases of all of these collating, like they will stop you, block you in the night, collect your phone, you get. We have just pockets of stealing here and there, but you know that one is normal everywhere.